The wind howled across the dry wasteland. Dust and sand rolled over the ground in endless waves. The land had once been green, or so the old map said, but now it was nothing more than cracked earth and jagged stone. A lone figure sat on the ground, hands bound with heavy iron chains. His name was Aaron. He had been a trader once, traveling between frontier colonies with a small cargo ship, but his ship had been torn apart by raiders weeks ago. The aliens who took him did not care who he was. They only cared that he was human, and humans fetched a price. He was dragged across the wastes, beaten and locked in chains. Now he sat in a camp filled with rough shelters and the stink of smoke. Around him, the raiders laughed and shouted in their guttural language. Aaron pulled against his chains for what felt like the 100th time. The iron bit into his wrists. His ankles were bound as well, with a short length of chain that allowed him only to shuffle a few steps. He had no weapon, no strength left, and no hope of escape. He thought of home, of the blue oceans of Earth that he had seen only once in his life. He thought of the stars, the freedom of flight, the hum of his ship's engine. Now all of it was gone. The raiders prepared for another night of feasting. They were large, brutal creatures with scaled skin and heavy jaws. They lived by raiding, not building. Every raid brought new slaves, new loot, new fires to fuel their savage lives. Aaron had seen other prisoners dragged into the camp. Some had been taken away again, never to return. He feared the same fate awaited him. As darkness spread across the wasteland, the raiders grew loud with drink and meat. Flames from their bonfire reached high, crackling in the dry air. Shadows danced along the walls of the camp. Aaron closed his eyes, trying to shut it all out. He wanted to believe he would survive another day, but the thought grew thinner with each passing hour. Then the ground trembled. At first, Aaron thought it was only his imagination. But then the earth shook again, harder. The raiders stopped their shouting. They looked around, uneasy. The sound of heavy steps echoed through the night. Something moved beyond the firelight. A towering figure larger than any of the raiders stepped into view. She was unlike anything Aaron had ever seen. Her body was powerful, built with muscle covered in short fur that caught the firelight. She had sharp ears, eyes that glowed faintly in the dark, and fangs that flashed when she bared her teeth. She carried no weapon in her hands, yet she radiated strength and fury. The raiders roared and rushed at her, blades raised. The Beastwoman moved like a storm. With a swipe of her arm, she sent one raider crashing into the ground. Another lunged, but she caught his weapon and snapped it like a twig before hurling him aside. Her roar filled the camp, deeper and more terrifying than the crack of thunder. Aaron could only stare. Shackled, helpless, he watched as she tore through the raiders with impossible force. They tried to surround her, but she leapt and spun with wild speed, crushing one after another. The camp that had seemed unbreakable now shook under her fury. One raider stumbled back toward Aaron, his weapon slipping from his hand. Aaron flinched, but before the raider could even raise it again, the Beastwoman grabbed him and hurled him into the fire. Flames shot high as the creature screamed. The remaining raiders fled into the dark, leaving behind their weapons, their food, and their captives. The camp grew silent except for the crackle of fire. Aaron sat frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The Beastwoman turned, her sharp eyes locking on him. For a moment, fear clenched his chest. He thought she would strike him down too. But instead, she stepped forward slowly, her heavy feet crushing the dirt. She crouched before him. Her eyes studied the chains on his wrists. Then, without a word, she gripped them in her hands. Aaron tried to pull back, but her strength was overwhelming. Metal groaned under her fingers. With a sudden snap, the chains broke apart, falling uselessly to the ground. Aaron gasped, staring at his freed hands. The Beastwoman broke the shackles on his ankles just as easily. The iron links clattered to the dirt. For the first time in weeks, Aaron could stand. He rose unsteadily, looking up at her. She was taller than him by a head, her shoulders broad, her presence commanding. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, she placed a hand on his chest. Her voice rumbled low, her words thick with an accent he barely understood. "Mine husband," Aaron blinked. "What?" She pointed at him, then at herself. Her lips pulled back in something between a smile and a snarl. "You husband, Kira's husband." Aaron shook his head quickly. "Wait, no." "I don't," but she did not let him finish. With a sudden movement, she lifted him into her arms as if he weighed nothing. Aaron flailed, his heart racing. She held him close against her chest, steady and firm like he belonged there. She spoke again, her tone fierce and certain. "Kira broke chains. Kira chose. You are mine now." The campfire crackled around them. Smoke drifted through the air. Aaron's mind spun with confusion and shock. Just minutes ago he had been a slave, shackled and hopeless. Now this towering Beastwoman had not only freed him but declared him her husband. He stared up at her face. Her eyes burned with determination, not cruelty. He realized then that whatever her reasons were, she had no intention of letting him go. For the first time since his capture, Aaron's chains were gone. But he wondered if he had truly been freed or simply bound by something far stranger. Kira, the Beastwoman, carried him out of the ruined camp. The night swallowed them both, leaving behind broken chains and the ashes of the raiders' fire. Aaron did not know where she was taking him. He did not know why she called him husband, but deep in his chest beneath the fear and shock a small spark of hope flickered. Maybe this was not the end of his story after all. The night stretched wide across the wasteland. Stars glittered above, sharp and clear, as if they were the only fires that would never burn out. Aaron shifted in the strong arms of the Beastwoman who carried him with steady steps. Her stride was long and the ground shook faintly each time her heavy feet pressed into the dirt. He looked up at her face. Her name was Kira. He had only learned it when she spoke of herself while saving him. She seemed proud of the name, proud of every word she spoke. Her eyes were bright gold, reflecting the faint glow of starlight. Her sharp ears turned at every sound. Always listening, always alert. Aaron wanted to speak, to ask her what she meant when she had called him husband. But every time he opened his mouth, he felt her grip tighten, as if reminding him that she was in control. He was free of chains, yet bound in another way. Put me down, Aaron said at last, his voice uncertain. Kira turned her head slightly, studying him. Her expression was unreadable. Then she gave a short shake of her head. No, weak still, rest, Aaron frowned. He hated the word weak. He had survived weeks in chains, hunger, and despair. He wanted to shout that he was stronger than she thought. But as his stomach growled and his legs trembled from exhaustion, he knew there was truth in her words. He had not eaten properly in days. His body still felt thin and weak. The Beastwoman carried him for hours. Finally, they came to a canyon where firelight glimmered between tall stone walls. Aaron's heart thudded. Another raider camp, he thought. But as they stepped inside, he realized this place was different. The camp was larger, but it was not filled with cruel laughter or the smell of burning loot. It was filled with tents made of animal hides and fires that burned low but steady. The people who moved between them were tall, broad-shouldered, and furred like Kira. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and their movements were silent yet powerful. Kira walked straight into the heart of the camp. All eyes turned to her. The tribesfolk paused in their tasks, watching her with a mix of respect and surprise. A tall male stepped forward, his fur dark and his jaw strong. He looked at Kira, then at Aaron in her arms. His voice rumbled deep. Kira returns with prey? Kira's lips pulled back in a low snarl. Not prey. Husband. The camp went silent. Dozens of glowing eyes turned toward Aaron. He felt his face grow hot. He wanted to vanish under their stares. A few of the beast folk tilted their heads, confusion on their faces. Others chuckled, the sound like thunder rolling low. The tall male narrowed his eyes. A human husband? Kira, your strength is great, but this is foolish. Kira set Aaron down on his feet at last. She stood tall beside him, her shoulders squared, her voice firm. Not foolish. Kira saved him. Kira broke his chains. He is mine. He will stand with me. Aaron swallowed hard. He could barely understand their customs, but the weight of her words was clear. She was claiming him not as a servant or a prize, but as something deeper. A bond, a role. The tall male shook his head. He is small, he is soft. He cannot fight with us. He cannot hunt. He cannot protect you. Aaron felt the eyes on him grow sharper, some curious, some mocking. He clenched his fists. He had been mocked before, but never by an entire tribe of towering warriors. He wanted to shout that he could be useful, that he was not helpless. But before he could speak, Kira growled low in her throat. He is mine. I say he is strong. Strength is not only in muscle, the crowd murmured. Some nodded slowly. Others frowned. The tall male crossed his arms. Then prove it. Let him prove it. Kira's golden eyes flicked toward Aaron. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. He will. Aaron's heart raced. He wanted to argue, to demand that she stop dragging him deeper into this madness. But when she looked at him, her gaze burned with such fierce certainty that the words stuck in his throat. That night, Aaron was given food for the first time in days. It was simple roasted meat, tough but filling. He ate until his stomach ached while the tribe watched him from a distance. Kira sat beside him, silent but protective. No one dared approach her closely. When the fire died low, Aaron finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but his words were sharp. "Why do you keep calling me husband?" "I don't understand," Kira tilted her head. "Because you are. I saved you. I broke your chains. It is our way. To save is to claim. To claim is to bind." Aaron rubbed his forehead. "That's not how it works for humans. You can't just choose someone and call them husband." Kira leaned closer, her eyes steady on his. "I did not choose carelessly. I saw you. You did not break when raiders chained you. You lived. Many would have died. You are strong. My heart knows." Aaron stared into the fire, unsure how to answer. He wanted to deny her words, but some part of him warmed at them. He had thought of himself as broken, as weak, as useless, but she saw something else. The next day, Kira took him into the camp's open space. The tribe gathered, curious. She handed Aaron a spear. It was heavy in his hands, longer than any weapon he had held before. "You will stand," Kira said. "You will show them." Aaron's hands trembled. He wanted to refuse, but he saw the tribe watching. He saw the doubt in their eyes, the quiet laughter they tried to hide. Something inside him hardened. When the trial began, Aaron was not asked to fight a warrior. Instead, he was told to defend himself against a training beast. A lean, four-legged creature was released into the arena. Its eyes gleamed red and its claws scraped the ground. Aaron gripped the spear tighter. His body screamed with fear, but his mind began to work. He remembered snares and traps he had once seen hunters use on Earth. He remembered the weak points of animals. When the beast lunged, Aaron sidestepped clumsily, thrusting the spear into the dirt. The creature slammed into it, shrieking as the point cut its shoulder. The tribe gasped. Aaron pulled the spear free, backing away, eyes sharp. The beast lunged again. This time Aaron rolled aside, scraping his arm but keeping his balance. He jabbed the spear low, striking the beast's leg. It stumbled. Aaron pressed forward, using his small size for speed. He drove the spear again, not with brute strength but with careful aim. The beast fell, snarling, unable to rise. Aaron stood over it, chest heaving, the spear steady in his hands. The tribe roared with approval. Their voices shook the canyon walls. Kira stepped into the arena, her eyes shining with pride. She raised Aaron's arm high. "Husband!" she shouted. "See him? Not weak, not soft. Strong!" The tribe cheered again, some pounding their fists against their chests. Even the tall male who had mocked them before nodded slowly, respect in his gaze. Aaron stood there, his body shaking from fear and effort, but his heart racing with something new. He had survived chains, he had survived despair, and now he had survived this trial. He looked at Kira. She smiled, sharp and wild, but her eyes held warmth. For the first time, Aaron wondered if perhaps her claim was not madness. Perhaps it was destiny. The morning sun spilled over the canyon, painting the stone walls in shades of gold and red. Smoke rose from cooking fires as the tribe stirred to life. Warriors stretched and prepared their weapons. Hunters readied their packs, and children ran between tents with laughter that echoed faintly. Aaron sat near the edge of the camp, his hands resting on his knees. His body still ached from the trial with the beast the day before. Scratches marked his arms and his muscles burned with every move, but he was alive. More than alive, he had proven himself before the entire tribe. Yet doubt lingered in his chest. He had survived the trial, yes, but he was no true warrior. He knew he could never match the tribe's strength in combat. He was still smaller, weaker, and slower. Kira walked toward him, carrying a piece of roasted meat in her hand. She offered it without a word. Aaron took it, nodding thanks. She crouched beside him, her golden eyes steady. "You did well," she said simply. Aaron chewed the meat slowly. "I only survived. I didn't fight like you do." Kira shook her head. "You fought as you are. That is strength." Her words stayed with him. As the day went on, Aaron watched the tribe prepare their defenses. Scouts reported that raiders were near again. The news brought no panic, only grim readiness. The warriors sharpened blades, the hunters tightened bowstrings, and guards took their places along the canyon walls. Aaron walked through the camp, studying everything with his human eyes. He saw the gaps in their defenses, the places where the canyon walls were too easy to climb, and the fires set too close to the tents. He noticed the warriors storing weapons in one place where a single raid could steal them all. He frowned. The tribe was strong, but their way of war was built on muscle and courage alone. They did not think in terms of traps, barriers, or tactics beyond direct battle. That evening, Aaron spoke to Kira about what he saw. "The raiders will come soon," he said. "Your warriors are strong, but strength alone cannot always win. You should prepare more." Kira tilted her head. "We have always fought this way. We meet the enemy face to face. That is our pride." Aaron shook his head. "Pride is good, but survival is better. If you fight only the way the enemy expects, one day they will overwhelm you." Kira's eyes narrowed, but not with anger, more with thought. She studied him in silence, then asked, "What would you do?" Aaron hesitated. He was no soldier, but he had seen battles before in his trading days when human colonies defended themselves against raids. He remembered the tricks and traps used to turn the tide. "I would make the ground fight for us," he said, "not just the warriors. I would dig pits near the canyon entrance, hide them, cover them with branches and sand. When the raiders charge, some will fall, breaking their lines." Kira leaned closer, listening carefully. "I would place sharpened stakes in the walls, so if the raiders try to climb, they will cut themselves. I would spread oil on the ground in front of the fires, so if they rush in, we can set it alight. And I would not keep all weapons in one place. Scatter them, so even if the raiders steal one cache, we are not left unarmed." When Aaron finished, Kira's expression had changed. There was a faint spark in her eyes. She stood and placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "You will show us." That night, under the pale glow of the moons, Aaron guided the tribe. He could not dig deep pits by himself, but with the strength of their warriors, it was done in hours. He showed them how to hide the traps with brush and sand, how to set sharpened stakes where raiders might climb, and how to spread oil carefully where it could burn without touching their own tents. The tribe worked with curiosity at first, then with growing excitement. They had never built such defenses before. Some doubted, but Kira's fierce voice silenced them. "Do as he says. My husband sees what we do not." By dawn, the camp was transformed. Where once it had been open, now it held hidden dangers for any who dared attack. When the raiders came, the sun was high. Their cries echoed through the canyon as they charged, weapons gleaming. Aaron's heart pounded, but he stood beside Kira at the front, his spear in hand. The first wave of raiders stormed through the canyon entrance, straight into the hidden pits. Screams rang out as they fell, impaled on sharpened stakes. The others stumbled, their lines breaking. The tribe's warriors roared and charged, striking the confused enemy with fierce blows. Some raiders tried to climb the canyon walls, but the hidden stakes tore their hands and feet, forcing them back. Others rushed toward the fires, only for Aaron to give the signal. A torch was thrown and flames roared across the ground, trapping the raiders in chaos. The battle was swift and brutal. The tribe, fighting with their usual strength, now had the ground itself on their side. The raiders fell one after another until those who survived fled into the wasteland, broken and beaten. When the dust settled, the tribe stood victorious. Not one had fallen. The warriors cheered, their voices shaking the air. Some clapped Aaron on the back, their eyes wide with respect. Others looked at him with new understanding. Kira stood tall, pride shining in her gaze. She raised her arm, pointing at Aaron. "You see? He is not only husband, he is mind. He gives us new strength." The tribe roared their approval. Aaron stood there, his body trembling not from fear but from relief. He had not fought like Kira or the others, but his ideas had saved lives. For the first time, he felt that he had given something truly valuable. That night, the camp celebrated with food and song. Fires burned high, not from fear but from joy. The people of the tribe danced and sang of their victory. Aaron sat near the fire, still uncertain of his place but warmed by the smiles directed his way. A group of children ran up to him, asking him to tell how he had thought of the traps. He explained as simply as he could, and their eyes shone with wonder. Kira sat beside him, her presence as strong as ever. She did not smile often, but tonight her eyes were soft. She leaned close, her voice low. "You see? You belong here with me." "With us," Aaron looked at her. For weeks he had been nothing but a prisoner, chained and powerless. Now he was something more. A husband by her claim, a strategist by his actions, and a man who had helped a tribe survive. He still felt the weight of uncertainty, but in his chest, hope grew stronger. Perhaps strength was not only in muscle. Perhaps it was in mind, in courage, in the will to stand even when weaker. As the firelight danced on Kira's golden eyes, Aaron began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he had found a place where he could belong. The mountain tribe lived in peace for only a short while after Tom proved himself among them. The fires of the slavers did not stay away for long. Their machines were built to conquer, and their greed never ended. The slavers remembered the prison raid, the broken chains, and the human who had been stolen from their grasp. They were not willing to let that insult pass. They marched again, their ships cutting through the skies like black knives, their weapons ready to burn the forests and the mountains of the beast folk. Tom felt the tremor of the ground before anyone saw the ships. He had been walking near the edge of the village, helping the tribe prepare food for the coming cold. When the ground shook, he looked to the sky and saw the faint gleam of metal. His chest grew tight. He had seen those ships before. They were the same kind that had carried him from Earth as a prisoner. The same kind that had locked him in chains. His jaw tightened as memory and anger rushed back. Runa came to his side, her golden eyes sharp. She saw what he saw and let out a low growl. "Slavers," she said with hate in her voice. She raised her clawed hand and pointed toward the sky. The horns of the tribe blew, echoing through the valleys. Warriors came running, their bodies tall and fierce, their fur bristling, weapons in their hands. Children and elders were hurried into caves, hidden behind stone doors that had been used for generations to protect them from storms. But this storm was not of nature. It was born of greed and cruelty. The tribe looked to their leader, but their leader looked at Tom. The human had proven himself in trials. He had climbed cliffs and endured storms. He had spoken words that reached their hearts. Now the tribe wanted to know if he would stand again. Tom felt the weight of their stares. He was only a miner from Earth, yet in this strange place he had become more. He straightened his back and stepped forward. "They are strong," Tom said loudly so all could hear. "They have machines, they have weapons, and they will not stop. But they believe we will break. They believe we will run. They are wrong. Humans do not give up. Beast folk do not give up. If we fight together, we will not only survive, we will win." The words struck like fire. Runa's tribe raised their weapons and roared in answer. The air filled with the sound of drums, claws against shields, and voices shouting as one. Tom's heart beat like thunder. He had faced hopeless fights before, deep in the mines, trapped under rocks, bleeding and alone. But this was different. Now he had allies. Now he had a reason to stand tall. The battle began when the slaver ships descended. Their beams of red light cut through trees, burning them to ash. Great armored beasts, half machine and half living flesh, stomped from the ships carrying heavy cannons on their backs. The slavers marched behind, armored in black plates, their faces hidden behind masks. They thought the beast folk would flee, but instead the tribe was waiting. Runa led the first charge, her roar shaking the mountains. She leapt forward with her massive spear, striking down the first machine beast before it could fire. Tom followed close behind, but he did not carry a spear or sword. He carried plans, maps drawn in the dirt, traps he had helped set in the night before. He shouted for the warriors to move as one, leading them into places where the cliffs narrowed and the forest thickened. The slavers' machines were powerful, but they were heavy and slow. The humans' cleverness turned the land itself into a weapon. From the cliffs above, beast folk rolled down boulders, smashing into the iron sides of the machines. From the trees, warriors swung down with ropes, striking the slavers from above. Fires lit the night, and the sound of battle shook the earth. Tom stood in the center, shouting orders, his voice carrying even through the chaos. The slavers grew angry. They sent in their flying drones, small machines with spinning blades and guns that fired firebolts. The drones swarmed over the battlefield. Tom saw them cutting through beastfolk lines, their bolts burning fur and flesh. His chest grew tight. If the tribe broke, if fear spread, the slavers would win. He grabbed a fallen spear, pointed it at the sky, and shouted for everyone to aim high. Hundreds of spears, arrows, and stones flew upward. The air filled with streaks of light as drones exploded one by one, falling like broken stars. The tribe roared louder than before, and hope rose again. The slavers tried another trick. They released gas from their machines, a dark smoke that choked the breath and burned the eyes. The beast folk coughed and stumbled. Tom saw it spreading like a wave and realized it would crush them. He remembered how miners used to deal with gas underground. He shouted for the tribe to cover their mouths with cloth, to soak them in water and to keep low. The tribe listened. Even as the smoke thickened, they held their ground. The slavers had expected panic, but they found resistance. The humans' memory had saved them. The battle stretched on. Hours passed. Fires burned in the forest, lighting the night with red. The tribe fought like wild storms, and Tom fought beside them. He was not the strongest, not the fastest, but he was the voice that would not bend. He shouted when warriors began to fall back. He lifted those who stumbled, and he reminded them again and again that they were not alone. Runa was a fury on the battlefield. She smashed through machines with her claws and spear. She fought at Tom's side, shielding him when danger came too close. When an armored slaver captain charged at Tom with a blade of red fire, Runa leapt between them, her roar drowning the captain's war cry. Together, she and Tom struck him down. In that moment, the tribe saw not just a Beastwoman and a human, but a pair who fought as one. The tide of the battle began to turn. The slavers were not used to long fights. They were used to enemies who surrendered, not ones who bit back again and again. Their machines were breaking, their soldiers falling. They began to retreat toward their ships. Tom saw it and raised his voice one last time. Do not let them return. Drive them away. Show them this mountain belongs to us. The tribe surged forward, their strength renewed. They struck down the last machines and pushed the slavers back into their ships. One by one, the ships lifted into the sky, smoke trailing from their sides. The mountains shook as engines roared. Then silence. The sky cleared and the stars returned. The slavers had been defeated. The tribe gathered on the battlefield. Their bodies were tired, their weapons broken, but their spirits were unbroken. They stood around Tom and Runa, raising their voices in a chant that echoed through the valleys. Tom looked at the faces around him. He had seen doubt before, but now he saw only respect. He was no longer the small man in chains. He was their comrade, their leader, and their hope. Runa placed her hand on his shoulder, her golden eyes bright. You fought as one of us, she said. You are more than my husband now. You are the heart of our tribe. Tom felt the weight of her words. He looked to the mountains, to the stars, and to the people who now called him one of their own. He was still a human, still a miner who once lived under the soil of Earth. But now he was something more. He had led a tribe of warriors into victory. He had shown that humans could rise anywhere, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. The battle was over, but Tom knew the war was not. The slavers would return, and he would be ready. For now, he stood with his tribe, proud and unbroken, the human who had turned chains into victory. The smoke of battle still lingered in the mountains. The forest carried the smell of fire and metal. Broken machines lay scattered across the valley floor, their black shells cracked and their weapons silent. The slavers had fled, but their shadow still weighed heavy on the hearts of those who had fought. The tribe gathered among the ruins, blood on their fur, dust on their armor, yet their eyes shone with pride. They had survived. They had stood together, and they had won. Tom stood in the middle of the tribe. His arms ached, his voice was hoarse from shouting commands, and his body was bruised. Yet he stood tall. He looked at the people around him and felt a strange warmth grow inside. He had been taken from Earth in chains, thrown into darkness and left for dead. Now here among beast folk in a world far from his own, he was not a prisoner anymore. He was something greater. Runa walked to his side. Her fur was burned in places, her spear cracked, but her golden eyes still burned bright. She placed her hand on Tom's chest and pressed gently, not as a warrior, but as something deeper. The battle is won, she said in a low voice, heard by all. We live because we fought together. We live because he stood with us. He is not only my husband. He is our husband. He belongs to this tribe. The beast folk roared, their voices shaking the valley. Tom felt his heart beat faster. He had never imagined such words. He had never imagined belonging so strongly to anyone, let alone to a whole people. He thought of his old life on Earth, of narrow tunnels, heavy stone, and long days of mining. There had been no pride there, only survival. Now, for the first time, he understood what it meant to be more than himself. The tribe carried their wounded back to the village. Tom walked beside them, helping those who stumbled. Runa stayed close, guarding his side. Fires burned in the center of the village, not of war, but of celebration. Food was brought from stores, drums began to beat, and songs filled the air. It was not only a victory feast. It was a promise to remember those who had fallen, and to honor the bond that had grown among them. Tom sat by the fire with Runa. He felt the heat on his face and listened to the songs. The beast folk sang of courage, of storms endured, of mountains unshaken. Tom realized that his story had already become part of their song. The words were simple, but the meaning was deep. They sang of the human who had broken chains, who had stood when others would have fled, and who had given them hope. Tom lowered his head for a moment, humbled. He had never wanted glory. He had only wanted to live. But life had given him more than he ever dreamed. Later that night, the elders of the tribe gathered. They sat in a circle around Tom and Runa. Their faces were marked with paint, their eyes sharp with wisdom. The oldest among them raised a staff carved from bone and wood. "You are no longer a stranger," the elder said. "You are no longer a prisoner. You are the chosen mate of Runa, and by her blood and her spirit you are bound to us. Tonight before the tribe in the mountains you are one of us forever." Runa stood tall and proud. She looked at Tom and spoke with strength. "I found him in chains. I broke those chains. He fought at my side. He shared my battles, and he stood unbroken when the storm came. He is mine, and I am his. Let the tribe know him not as a stranger, but as husband, warrior, and kin." The firelight flickered as silence filled the circle. Then the tribe raised their voices, chanting Tom's name. The sound rolled like thunder through the mountains. Tom felt a lump in his throat. He had no crown, no armor, no riches, but at that moment he had something greater. He had belonging. He had family. The celebration lasted deep into the night. The tribe danced, their heavy steps shaking the earth. They painted their bodies with colors of victory, red for courage, blue for unity, white for spirit. They painted Tom's face as well, marking him as one of their own. Runa stood with him as they danced together, their movements rough and powerful, their voices raised with the tribe. For the first time, Tom laughed without fear, his heart lighter than it had ever been. When the fires burned low and the stars shone bright, Tom and Runa walked away from the noise. They climbed a ridge overlooking the valley. The night was cool, the wind carrying the scent of pine and stone. Below them, the tribe still sang, their voices carrying into the night sky. Runa sat beside Tom, her large frame strong and steady. She looked at him with pride. "You are not weak," she said. "You are not small. You carry strength not in claws or in size, but in spirit. That is why I broke your chains. That is why I chose you. The tribe sees it now. You are ours." Tom looked at her, at the golden fire in her eyes, and he smiled. "On Earth I was only a miner," he said. "I dug in the dark. No one knew my name. No one cared if I lived or died. Here, I have found something I never thought possible. I have found a home. I have found you." Runa placed her hand on his, her claws gentle against his skin. For a moment the world was quiet. The stars above them seemed brighter than ever, as if the universe itself bore witness to their bond. The days that followed were not easy. The tribe had to rebuild. Houses had burned, fields had been scarred by fire, and the wounded needed care. Tom worked beside the tribe every day. He carried stones, cut wood, and helped repair walls. His hands were rough, but he was used to hard labor. The beast folk respected him more with each passing day. He was not a man who gave orders from a distance. He was a man who worked with them side by side. Children followed him, curious about the human who had become one of their own. They asked him to tell stories of Earth, of the blue sky, of oceans without end. Tom told them in simple words, and they listened with wide eyes. Some of them began to dream of traveling to other stars, of seeing the human world. Tom smiled, though his heart ached, for he knew he might never see Earth again. But perhaps that was not a loss. Perhaps he had found something greater than the world he left behind. The elders taught him more about the customs of the tribe. They showed him how to carve the symbols of strength, how to read the signs of storms in the mountains, and how to listen to the voice of the land. Tom learned with patience, and though he stumbled, he never gave up. Runa was always near, guiding him, correcting him, and sometimes laughing when his human ways clashed with the traditions of her people. Yet her laughter was warm, filled with pride. One evening, weeks after the battle, the tribe gathered again. This time it was not for war or for rebuilding. It was for the future. The slavers had been defeated, but all knew they might return. The tribe needed a leader who could guide them in both strength and wisdom. The elders spoke, and the people listened. At last, the staff of the elder was placed in the ground before Tom and Runa. "You fought with us," the elder said. "You bled with us. You brought us victory when defeat seemed certain. Together, you and Runa are stronger than either alone. From this day, you are not only husband and wife. You are guardians of the tribe. You will stand as leaders in times of peace and in times of war. Tom felt the weight of the words, but he did not flinch. He looked at Runa, and she gave him a steady nod. He placed his hand on the staff, and she placed hers beside his. The tribe roared with approval, and the mountains echoed with their voices. Tom was no longer a prisoner. He was no longer a miner lost in the dark. He was the husband of the Beastwoman, the heart of a tribe and the symbol of what humanity could be. He knew the slavers would come again, and he knew battle still lay ahead. But he also knew he would not face them alone. As the firelight shone in his eyes and the tribe gathered around him, Tom felt a truth deeper than chains, deeper than fear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not small. In spirit, humanity was unbreakable, and now with the beast folk at his side, he was ready to face whatever the stars might bring.